Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Fellas. As always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on all things The Fellas. This episode, we're joined by some very special guests, the Adams family. I'm going to toss it to you guys. Please introduce yourselves.
So, hello, guys. My name is TrulyAdams. I've been racing for about 10 years now, and I'm 15 years old.
My name is Kara Adams. I'm Truly's mom, Troy's wife, and I have been helping to run Adams Motorsports Park now 2018.
And I'm Troy Adams, Truly's father, president and CEO of Adams Motorsports Park and Troy Adams Coaching, where we've been in, we have a racing facility. We're the oldest racing facility in, one of the oldest in the United States, only black owned in the United States, if not the world. And we work with not just youth, but all drivers to enjoy motorsports.
Yeah. Welcome, everyone. So this week, we're going to be talking about the finale in Abu Dhabi. And I have to start off by saying Lando Norris and McLaren's victory. We know the results. We have to talk about that. I'm going to throw it out to Simon first. Simon, what are your thoughts?
As far as McLaren and the victory in the World Championship, I think McLaren did a great job winning, and Norris winning as well. To me, it was a double victory, and one could say a triple victory with the constructors as well. But McLaren had to win this. Norris had to win this. If Max and Red Bull came back and won the world champion, I think McLaren would be under a lot of pressure and a lot of scrutiny based on their papaya rules and having both drivers kind of racing until they figured out who was going to be the lead racer. Right now, this year, they did not have a number one driver or number one person that they were going to support. They had two drivers, and it could have backfired on them big time. So I think it was a great victory for McLaren and an awesome victory for Lando Norris.
Yeah. Ray?
Well, I'll say this, that we can claim that papaya rules worked, but I beg to differ. But again, I'm just sitting home here on my couch. But ultimately, I will say yes. I applaud Lando for his win, right? They did comment on some of the stuff that his family went through to help him get there. Mm-hmm. And I'm happy for him, right? Mm-hmm. And he was able to hold off the Red Bull juggernaut. Mm-hmm. Max, to me, when it comes to driving, he's like Terminator. I don't know if you guys are about that, but he's like the Terminator. He's set on a target, and he's going to make sure he takes that target out. But McLaren was able to hold him off.
Yeah, I'll throw it to the Adams family. What are your thoughts?
I think Lando did a great job this weekend. It was a great run from the McLaren team. They did a great job from politics side and also the driver's side. Lando kind of stayed clean, didn't make too many risky moves, and finished the race. That's all you had to do. Finish top three, and you win a championship. Yeah. So from a driver's point of view, did a great job. Max really couldn't do anything about it. He won the race by a pretty far run, but just couldn't come out with the championship. So.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all of you in that sense. Lando drove a very mature race, because coming into this, I was speculating which Lando were we going to get. Were we going to get a Lando where he made a mistake, and which would have been costly, or were we going to get a dialed in Lando? And we definitely got a dialed in Lando. But I'm happy for him. But I hope over the offseason that he does some work on the mental game to come out a little stronger mentally. So some of what we saw where he cracked under pressure in some of the other races, that he can get that under control so he can be more consistent, because that's the mark of a world champion from what I've seen, from what I've been watching, is they are very, very consistent and rarely throw away an opportunity, as we saw with Max. Max, like, I call him a great white shark. He's out there hunting, and if he sniffs blood anywhere, he's coming. But Lando was able to do it. And I think Oscar also helped him, because Oscar's passing Lando on lap 1 it looked like he was putting pressure on Max, like he was trying to push him to see if there's anything there. Obviously, I know Oscar wouldn't mind to win, but I think in some respect he was trying to push Max to see as well, but it didn't pay off. Max is he's a robot, like Ray said, a Terminator.
I see a smirk and a serious look there from Kara and Troy. What are your opinions on that? I would love to know.
Well, in my opinion, the race could have gone much different if the stewards would have given him that 5-second penalty for getting an advantage, from going off the track. Like, if it was somebody else, potentially Lewis, like, would they have made the call? And so I was so happy when there was no further action, because it could have been much different.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree. When I heard that come over, I was like, uh-oh, here we go. Are we going to orchestrate another, and I'll say it in parentheses, in caps, another world title?
Yeah.
But this time they didn't, they left it alone. Let him race, and honestly, I'd have to go back and look. I think what happened was, yes, he was over the line, but where he made the pass, the track widened. So I think the line was a little bit over. I'm just saying. Simon, I see.
But Yuki was out of place. Yuki was completely. He moved like 4 times. Yeah, right. Yeah. So if they would have penalized Lando for what Yuki did, it would have been an orchestrated world championship.
Right. So having touched on McLaren, Red Bull's relentless charge. I mean, that is a world championship team. I mean, we know that they're the ones that got dethroned, but my goodness, I am, like I've said, I'm not a Max Verstappen fan per se, but I respect his craft and his skills. That he's a machine, and his team, like, they don't throw away points. We could say McLaren has over this season. They've thrown away points. Red Bull doesn't do that at all. I'll throw it to you, Truly. What are your thoughts on Red Bull and Max's drive?
Well, I think Red Bull had a kind of rough start towards the season, but they came back for sure towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
They did a great job towards the end of the season. Yuki getting better towards the end of the season. Max was doing great towards the end of the season. I really thought they did really good towards the end. Towards the start, it was a little rocky.
Mm-hmm.
Changed 3 drivers, but it was good. I think it was a great battle. They didn't do good enough to get a championship, but there's always next year.
Yeah. Before we go, I want to ask you, Carol. I saw you have a look again. Troy is very stone-faced, so I'm not sure if I want to go there. So I'm going to come to you.
We got to see what Troy's got to say. But go ahead.
Yeah. We're gonna go over there in a minute, but I'll come over here. What are your thoughts?
I agree with Truly. I think Red Bull is a machine. And I think the head of the is Max. Whatever Max needs, whatever Max wants, kind of he gets it and he's able to produce with it. But they didn't win the constructors. And they didn't win the constructors, in my opinion, because they don't think about the second driver enough. But, that's just me. I think it's a great team. Just, I'm not a huge Red Bull fan because, like, I am a huge F1 fan, huge Lewis Hamilton fan. But I think that looking into the future, they've got to remember they got 2 drivers.
Yes, I agree. Well, I'm gonna go over to the other side right now. So, Troy, what are your thoughts on Red Bull's charge this season?
Red Bull did a great job over the last couple of years to just work on their complete program. What people forget is it's a true team sport, not individual. So, in the beginning, you just mentioned how much of a machine and how awesome Max is, but are you now telling me then that Lewis is garbage? Because if you praise Max to that level, then Lewis has to be garbage.
No.
See,
that is not what. That is not. No. Hold on.
So,
and you know what's funny?
If Max is a machine, right? Then back when Lewis was the guy, was he a machine or was it actually the whole team that was put together to make sure that he was the guy. So we have to just be, I think sometimes we get caught up in how good a driver is and really underestimate how good the whole team and the unit is. Because yes, I have to give it to him. Max is great, but I can't put Lando down for saying he was weak mentally when we don't know what happened behind the scenes in order to make him weak mentally. There's no way we can say that Hamilton is a bad driver or he's forgotten how to drive, but yet we see mentally he's struggling. And his struggle has nothing to do with his craft or his ability. His struggle has to do with the people behind the scenes and what kind of vehicle they're giving him to drive. So no way, I don't care what driver, how good the driver is, you're not going to be good if you don't have a program. Berman, Ali went, P2? Mm-hmm. And he said that was the best the car ever felt. Mm-hmm. And then the next one, then all of a sudden, he was garbage. So
I agree. I agree with you, but I'll say it this way. I agree with you because I think when it comes to McLaren, I think they sabotage Oscar. That's my opinion. So I agree with what you're saying. Yes, you need a team. You need the tip of the spear to be sharp, but you need that the shaft of the spear has also got to be good, right? And that's the team. I agree with you, but I think McLaren was always Lando's team, and I think that they favored him and fed him emotionally and fed him with equipment and got him to where it was. And Oscar, I think something happened there. That's just my opinion.
I agree.
I'm sorry.
I agree.
Okay. And when it comes to Red Bull, I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because I was like, how is it that Yuki was so high up the order in this last race, but he was nowhere in all the other ones? So I agree with you, Kara, that yes, they're not giving him what he needs, right? They're not paying attention to the second driver, but we know that about Red Bull, right? Yeah. We know that because we know it with Checo. When Checo was giving Max hell initially, when he first came on, Checo was going well, but until they shifted the car to favor Max, once they did that, Checo faded, right? And I'll say, and we've said it here over the season, you know, the pundits, they can't say certain things, but I'm like, yeah, you put it on the driver, but what's going on in the back scene with them? Why, you know, Red Bull, we know Checo, they had Daniel, right? And now you have Yuki. Everybody's fading, and they say, oh, the second car. My question is, when I watch this, I would like to know if they gave Yuki's car more than what they normally did, and that's why he was able to perform a little better. Anyway, but I agree with you. Go ahead, Troy.
So then can I go back to your initial? Okay. Is Verstappen a machine, or is the machine just built better and equipped and given to the other drivers? Because you just named it. Okay. Checo, as soon as he got to a point where he was able to battle, we seen him go slow. Yuki was slow all year. All of a sudden, we see him at speed.
Who was the one before Yuki?
Liam.
Liam lost.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mention him on purpose.
Can't really count him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't mention him on purpose.
True.
Yeah.
But well, I'll say this. I'm sorry, Troy. Go ahead.
No. So I guess I always when we're having these discussions, I'm always one to make light of how important the team is and how important as a driver that you need to, when you go into a situation, that you make sure that you understand the politics and that you understand the business side of racing. Because at the end of the day, everybody's fast at that level. There's only one driver probably in that whole field that shouldn't be there. And we all know who that is.
Oh, yeah, we know who he is.
Okay? Yeah. But everybody else...
Yeah, he needs to stroll along.
But everybody else has performed at a very high level in every other race car. And if you put all of them in the right situation, when the machine is right, they usually will perform.
Well, I'll say this. I agree. And what you're saying, you're echoing sentiments that Ray's said all season.
Speaking which.
Right, that he said. But before I toss it, I agree. Yes. To answer your question, yes, Max, I do believe Max is a machine. He's extremely consistent, right? Yeah. Having said that, he is part of the team, so he needs Red Bull to be consistent as well. Checo may have had a shot. if he had a team that would back him and give him what he needs in the car. I do feel on the grid there are drivers that have world championship ability or talent, and part of that is consistency, right? But then I feel there are some that no, like, and that's where I differentiate. Like Carlos, I think is good, and Carlos is on fire. Like if you give him what he needs, I think he could do it. And to speak to it, to answer your question, you do need the team, because we look back to Lewis and Fernando. We knew Fernando was already a world champion, right? We knew what handicapped Fernando. Well, he wanted to handicap Lewis because Lewis was on fire in 07 when he came in, when he was pushing. The team shifted to Lewis over Fernando, right? So all I'm saying is, just to close it out, you need both, but I don't think every driver on that grid is world championship material. That's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know. Simon, Ray, jump in.
Ray, I'll let you go. I'll let you go first, Ray. I'll let you go first, Ray, because I know you have a lot to say.
I've said it in the past, right? That Formula One is in a situation where we're seeing good driving talent go to waste because of their emphasis on the engineering of the vehicle, right? And I think they're trying in some ways. I hear that this 2026, they're trying to make sure that the cars can even travel closer to each other now to, improve overtaking, because there are drivers there that, given the opportunity, they will do it. But the teams that they work for don't have the resources in order to produce the vehicle that they need to put forth that effort. Also, with the favoritism with the drivers, right? The car gets twisted to one driver's liking that's out of another driver's liking, because I'll go back to Lewis, 8-time world champion. You're trying to tell me he can't wrap his head around a different car?
Yeah.
Right? Come on, man. All right, sorry. Let me calm down. Sorry. I'm the emotional one. I'm sorry. Anyway, so again, that's the big conundrum, right? Because that's what Formula One's built themselves upon, and also that, the technology, but also they do have favorites. Yes, Lando was Zach's boy from the beginning, right? And Oscar, did know his place and stepped up there. I wonder what happened, why Oscar fell off, because I was listening to an interview and they said around the time Oscar went off, they made a change on the car, on the front end of the car. I wonder if that coincided with how Oscar, was able to perform based upon that, right? And as your husband said, there are things that happens in the background, because I've heard drivers say that the only time they rest is when they're actually racing the car, because there's so much politics going on in the background and things they have to deal with, that the only relaxation time is when they're in the car, because they don't have to deal with that. So, it's you guys have voiced what I've said before. Thank you.
Simon?
Devil's advocate, right?
Here we go.
Yeah. They have to pick one, I believe. You have to pick a racer. In the sense of, two drivers are not the same. You're going to have two drivers who are going to like the setup just a little bit different than the other, right? You're going to try, in my opinion, and Troy, please, and Adams family, please correct me if I'm wrong. You're going to try and keep the cars identical, but someone's going to want a little bit more oversteer than the other, right? Someone's going to like the setup of the car a little bit different. And who do you go with, right? And then I don't know how the upgrades work, because there was a time for McLaren where Lando had the upgrades before Oscar did, and I don't understand that, how the upgrades are not equally distributed. So I'm not sure how that all works, but I'm sure there's nuances that we will learn one day with Truly, but we have to figure out what those nuances are. I have a feeling you have to pick a driver just so there is some consistency inside the paddock. That's just my opinion.
We'll throw it back to the Adams family.
No, I think unfortunately you do, and I think it's more not of team politics, but I think it's also with cost, right? So we spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for a tenth of a second. And like you said, some drivers want a car that steers from the front and very sensitive on the front end, and some drivers drive and like a car that really steers from the back. and either free or however they like the vehicle. So when they're manufacturing these small components to help the drivers, you almost have to lean towards one driver than the next. I mean, Matt's style is very different than anybody else's, and so because his style is so different, they have to lean, towards that, which then hurts another driver that comes in unless they find another driver that has the same sensitivity and driving style as Max. So I think it's more of a cost factor than anything. I think the same thing with Lewis, how the more engine braking or different things that we've heard him say. There's 1 year left. What do? You go spend millions of dollars to change the whole car to go towards what his driving style and what he's felt probably over the last 5-10 years. No. So that's the hardest part. I'm sure from a driver standpoint, he would want it to be equal, but that's the politics side, and you go in and you figure out how to be the best.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's only one thing I have to disagree with throughout this conversation.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that Lando or Oscar's being treated, I'd say, differently than Lando. But I think that Oscar, what people forget is Oscar was bought out his contract by McLaren from Alpine. So it's not that they don't give him the love that they give to Lando. And it's true that, Zach kind of favors Lando because you can see it. But it's also that I think we all know that Lando and Piastri have the same amount of talent. They're both very good drivers. And now that you can see McLaren is doing much better than they did 2 years ago. So now it's really putting they're putting their eggs in their baskets to where they're giving half to Lando and then half to Piastri, but it just depends on the race.
Right. Okay. I can see that. Yeah. Well, that's why we appreciate the insight that you guys are giving us in that sense, because we've always wondered what's going on, and we never know. We always said, Lewis said after he and Rosberg at Mercedes, after that year where Rosberg got the championship, he said when he retired, he would write a tell-all book. And I kind of hung on that. Like, if he ever writes it, I will be out there to get it, because I want to try to understand what's happening in the back end that we don't get access to. It's more than that. So what I want to move into, we weren't going to necessarily touch it for this episode, but I want to now. Let's go into Lewis and Ferrari at Ferrari. We've talked about it over the year. Like, I'm surprised, what's going on over there. Why is he's a known talent. He's a world champion. And 8-time. And nothing, he's almost turned into a sort of midfielder on the grid. What do you think is the issue? And I know you touched on some of it already. I know you did touch, but if you feel like you want to just give us an indication of what you think might be happening there.
Let me take this one for y'all guys.
Okay, please,
right.
Truly, take it.
Okay, so the one reason I think Lewis has been struggling this year, if you remember towards the start of the year, he was actually doing really well.
Yes.
He had a top 5. He got a pole in his sprint. He was doing very well towards the start of the season. But I also know they changed a lot of stuff in the middle of the season. They didn't really kind of develop the car slowly. They threw a lot of things at it. And then I don't know if he was able to really adapt quick enough, because he's on a new car. So when they do throw different things at it, when you're also on a new car, it just stacks up. Yeah. Because even at Vegas, he did really well, just not on a great pit strategy. He was up to 5th. Even this weekend, he was up to 8th, dropped down, and then went back up. So it's not necessarily Lewis's fell off. It's more
the machine.
Not even the machine. Not even.
I'm with you, Troy.
Not even the machine. It's more of confidence for sure.
Yeah.
Because you can see it in all the media.
Right.
Yeah.
But also that he's not used to having to come from the back.
Yeah.
At McLaren, he was already fast.
Yeah.
Mercedes, he was already fast.
Yeah.
Now he's starting from the bottom
Yeah.
with a whole new team with people that are much different from him. And now he's coming from a different aspect of this team is the creme of racing. It's Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
They do things by strict rule, and they don't really change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So now he's coming from a different aspect of, now I have to kind of form into this because Leclerc has done a very good job at that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you pass me the baton?
Yeah, you could go.
Okay. Yeah. I think to kind of add to Truly's point, I think Lewis thought that he would have more say so and be able to give more direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got there, and you get all of these engineers and data and, the people who are like, I've been doing this my whole life. You can't tell me, how to put this on or do whatever the thing is that he wanted to do. And it probably became a battle of wills, and the engineering team won over the driver.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he anticipated that would be the case.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I believe so too. Troy, anything you want to add, or?
I think they're spot on. What most people don't understand is that all it takes is one very small kind of mishap, one cog in the wheel to go astray, and we have a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking, the wheel, the tire guy can say, what, I'm gonna put. They want it at this tire pressure. I'm gonna put it at this tire pressure. Or I'm gonna, change something extremely small,
Mm-hmm.
and it changes the whole outcome of it. So, one thing I love about Lewis and is that he's always, kind of, even things when were bad, he was giving love to the team and trying not to show emotion and the negativity.
Yeah.
And you saw when that started to when it started to stop happening,
Right.
is when, the frustration and everything else, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
When you're having when driver has a problem again with, I'll call it the machine, there's a problem.
Right. I got it. Ray, go ahead.
Because what they seem to forget, and it's not what Enzo said back in the day, that, drivers, do you give a car to a driver and they need to just drive it?
Yeah.
Is that we're not doing autonomous racing yet. It's there, but right now we still have a human in the seat. So you can't be focused on data all the way, right? Because they're all doing simulations. When you deploy something, you don't know if you're successful or not until it's been deployed.
Yep.
And these guys got a chip on their shoulder and is not listening to the person in the seat and expecting him to be the robot. So, anyway, let me come back down. So because I've listened to the radio with Ferrari and Lewis, and sometimes I think he's, when he's talking to Lewis, his response time is like he's on dial-up with the questions that he asks, right? And it's just like, it just troubles me. So again, I think it's come out that there's issues in the background that's causing it, right? And he's trying to, bring the car to him, right? And by making suggestions, and it's I don't know enough to know if that's even possible, right? If it just has to be for one driver or not, because again, an 8-time world champion, yes, he was with a team that he went through the similar thing with the car that they built. And I remember him saying in one of the interviews when they decided to reverse the design of the car, he said, "I told you so." Right. So nobody was listening to them when he was over in Mercedes. Was at the end. Right. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious about the car setup because, in my limited exposure, cars drive in different ways. And as to be a good driver, sometimes you have to know to drive around it. Right. Just like Checo. Right. Checo got substandard cars and he's driven around it. So I'm wondering, how different is this one that's really setting him off? What's happening back in the background that's causing him that, yes, there are times, he jumps on it and the car's with him and he's gone. And and the other times, the majority of times, something's missing in the connection.
They've got an engineering problem. I mean, where'd they finish last year?
Third?
They almost won it.
Yeah.
They were Leclerc was set to win it.
Right.
Yeah. actually.
Ferrari was second in the
Yeah,
constructors.
was
in
second
the
to win.
constructors.
You don't go from set to win it. McLaren up there stayed up there, right? Towards the end, Mercedes stayed up there. Where did Ferrari go? It was only one change. Lewis came in. It was disruption, right? He's a disruptor, unfortunately. And the engineering and their whole program. I mean, Leclerc can't drive the car either. Both of them are complaining. So it's not a Lewis issue per se.
Right.
It's a machine. It's an engineering. It's a whole principle, the whole team, and it starts. It's tough, right? We're gonna have to deal with that as we go through this same process. Truly will. And how do you work the politics of racing and be able to not disrupt it, but also help change and hopefully the engineers and the whole program listens to all the drivers. We've seen it at Prima this year as well. So it doesn't just happen at the top. Prima was one of the best. And now they're struggling.
Right. Simon?
I boil it down to one word, which is trust. I do not believe there's trust between Lewis and his team at this point, engineering team. And I don't know if they're going to have a better season next year with a new car, a new chassis, if that trust isn't, figured out. They have to be able to trust each other. Lewis needs to be able to jump in a car and know what it's going to do to some extent, so he can just drive. All he wants to do is drive. All Charles wants to do is drive the car. If they're having all this engineering and technical issues and there's no trust in the back, they're not going to have a great season next year either.
Right. It kind of goes back to like what I said back when in the Schumacher era, he brought in key people that he trusted, that were capable, and they clearly listened to him because poor Rubens he just got a car to drive on Sunday. But still, he had all that. He had the trust. He had the team and the engineering squad that put together a car that he was able to go out and win his 7 world titles. Win, not full 7 with Ferrari, win his world titles with Ferrari. So I don't know. I hope Lewis can do better. Meaning, I hope the team can do better to give Lewis what he needs for next year, because we know he's a world champion. We know you give him the equipment, he will deliver for you. So we'll see.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
For the Adams family, for Truly. Can you really make a setup on a car that one driver can excel and the other driver can't drive around, giving their experience within the season?
I feel like everything is preference. Like for me,
True.
in a go-kart, I can't drive the same way as somebody else. It's all Lewis Hamilton isn't the same height as Charles. Like they're all different in their own ways. So I don't think you can copy somebody else's setup and paste it into somebody else's car. Max Verstappen, no one else has been able to do it because that's his driving style. We all have our own driving styles, and they're all different from each other's.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I won't even say, but I had a situation like that. A friend of mine and we used to race these. They were gas powered RC cars, and we used to race them on a track. And I remember I was the mechanic, worked on the cars, and we'd set them up and then go out. And I remember going out, taking my friend's car out after I made some changes on it, and I couldn't drive the car because every time I turned the steering wheel, it would just oversteer, because the steering in his car was different than mine, and it was very sensitive. So I remember I'd fixed something in my car while I was working on his, and I told him, hey, go shake it down and let me know how it is. So while I was fixing his and then I'm doing his, I'm like, man, this car it's all over the place. Like, it's so twitchy. He came back to me and says, I don't know what's wrong with your car. I said, what do you mean? He said, it doesn't turn. I said, all right, let me check it out. I just gassed it up, fired it back up. He was out running his car and I'm running down. He goes, hey, you fixed it? I said, no. I said, it works fine. But what Truly said, that was something I would have needed more time to adjust to the sensitivity of his car. Whereas he would have also needed time to adjust to mine. Like, the styles were different. So I guess, well, obviously it's the same in racing. And I guess the teams, what they're trying to do is, if they're two drivers, you're trying to find that balance between both drivers, that you can give each what they can have to be at their maximum as best as possible. Go ahead, sir.
So just real quick question, and this goes to Truly and Adam's family as well. So Truly, in September, you raced in France for Feed, the F4 competition. Did everyone have the same type of car and same setup, or did you make changes to the car at all, or how did that work?
No, so in Feed, we all had the same setup. So there was no different, like everything was the same. We all stock setup, and if someone had a problem, then it was, let's try to fix it. But we all had the same setup, and then on the finals, in the rain, we were able to change the brake bias to whatever it kind of felt like for you. So
while you're driving.
Yeah, while you're driving. So it's only that, but like even in karting, we have the same thing. We have brake bias. So it's like Yuki was not the fastest when he first got in the car, but towards when he kind of started developing his seat time in the Red Bull with kind of Max Verstappen setup, he got better. I feel like Yuki was probably one of the best drivers on that setup. Because you can see Liam couldn't do it. Daniel could do it. And so could Checo. So it just depends, like, seat time. All it is, you can make or break a driver in seat time.
So can I jump in one more time, though? So are you saying then, is it correct for me to conclude that because you're adapting, they keep moving the needle because they're saying they're improving the car, so they keep changing it. So when you get used to one setting, then they go and change it. So you're starting all over again. So you really, right? So it's always rinse and repeat in a sense that you figure you got to it and you figured out how to drive the car now. And then they come and they put this other add-on to it that change the cars completely again. Is that a correct takeaway?
Yeah, that's what he was saying about Lewis. Yeah.
It's kind, because like Lewis, like I was saying, towards the start of the season, he was fast. That's probably the setup he was driving with all the test days he was doing. But as soon as he started stacking on stuff that he wasn't really used to and wasn't really driving, now he had to learn that.
Or it was improving the car for the number one driver.
Yep.
And so we need to continue to go that direction to help that driver, even though it may be hurting the other driver, right?
Yep.
Sometimes as an engineer or a mechanic, you know, we may give, if I go to go-karts right now, you know, I may give Truly a setup and he'll come back in and be like, Dad, that was horrible. That's not the direction. Or, you know what, the tire pressure was too low. It took too long to come in. We need to go to a higher, tire pressure. But when you get to sports cars and you have a two-car team, you can't do that, right? If Truly like, man, I like the tire pressure at 10 psi, and Ray says, well, no, I like it 12, and then that's a kind of easy fix. But if we've made a special component for the front end that we spent millions of dollars for, and Ray's like, nah, I like the new setup because that's what he really likes in the front. And Truly's like, no, but the thing will not turn. It doesn't react the same. I don't like it. They're going with the new setup.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing. And it's just, again, having the relationship with the engineer and to be able to hopefully talk them out of sometimes the changes that they think is the right change, but for the driver, not the right change.
Well, that's also
go ahead, Truly. I'm sorry.
That's also why I think McLaren did so well this year, because they didn't favor one driver. They really kind of shared their ideas between everyone. So it was, Lando said this, we're going to do this. It was more of, hey guys, this is what's happening. Let's try to figure out a problem between both the drivers and kind of favor one car for Lando and then one car for Piastri.
So developing two cars differently.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to the point, Troy, that you were saying, Alex Albon said that when they favor a driver, he said that of Red Bull when he was there and Max's teammate, where he said there was a point, an interview I saw with him, where he said Max likes the front end very sharp, and he said, picture a mouse and you turn the sensitivity up to the maximum and it just darts across the screen. He said you would start out and you have the car and it's fine, but then Max wants it sharper and sharper as it goes along, and they're making it sharper and sharper, but only he can drive it.
Right.
So that fully understand, fully agree.
So
Okay.
can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
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 Is it Hajar going to his death in Formula One, then going into that number 2 car? Because it's cursed.
Great question.
We'll
It's
see.
a new setup, though. It's a new chassis.
Well, I know Ralph is the Max lover on this podcast.
Not so.
I see what you did there.
What happens though if Hajar goes in on the new setup and he's actually faster than Max?
Oh, they'll correct
What do we
that
do?
quick. They'll correct that quick.
Yeah.
But I can as long as I've been in this game, I've seen it happen.
Right.
So yes, and I'm sure they've been testing and doing that, but you don't know till
Yeah.
it all unfolds.
Right.
No, I will say Hajar is going to his death.
Okay.
If someone tells you who they are, believe it. And Red Bull is saying Max is our guy. Max is going to be our guy. So therefore, I'm sorry,
I
Hajar.
disagree with that.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Only because this is a new guy. I don't think Max is getting to the point where he's doing really good, but they need constructor.
And
you
he's-
can't
and he's
build a
maturing.
team. You can't
Max is
build
maturing.
you can't build a team just around one driver. He can't win constructor.
True.
So now you're losing all that money that you were getting before.
Yeah.
You need another driver. You can't have a situation like this year where you'd even get top 3 in the constructors.
Yeah.
You
We've said that.
you got to get the money to afford to keep on racing.
Yep.
Is
Yeah.
Doctor still there? What's his name?
Helmet.
Yeah.
Helmut Marko. Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course, he is. He
that's
is.
a whole
He's Red Bull.
Yeah.
That is a whole nother discussion. But understand, actually, I wasn't a big Max fan, but after this race, I actually became an extremely big Max fan, just because he's maturing,
Yes.
right? And you see that, and yes, I totally agree. Like, he's a killer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe he's a machine. He's a killer.
Yeah.
Lewis, a killer. Like, there's guys out there that Lando.
Alonso.
Yeah, Alonso. Yeah.
Alonso, I meant little Kimmy.
Mhm.
Even though Russell cries a lot, at times he can be he's a killer.
Yeah.
And so, you put all these guys in the right space,
Yeah.
Right.
that killer comes out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But when it's off, when the car gets a little off, it's tough mentally,
Yes.
physically, emotionally.
Yeah.
Because they're all at that level.
Yeah. Okay. I love it. I love
But
it.
you tell saying his job is done.
Yeah.
He'll 2 years he'll be out of Formula One.
He's going to be in sports car.
Who? Hajar?
I'm in
Yeah.
agreement.
Yeah,
I'm in
yeah.
agreement.
Well, I've said what Truly said, and it's true. We've had it in the podcast where I said, no, if you have a number 2 driver, that driver has to be good enough to bring home points, right? Because it's a business, right? So, and I agree. I've said the same, and we've discussed that, where you need that driver to come up and fill in the gap. All of the points that they got for the constructors was Max.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That
All of
you're
them.
never going to get it. And I said it in one of our past episodes where I said there's another team in green that if their number 1 driver is good, they are going to need that second driver to step his game up.
Yeah.
Because you want him to also bring home points for the constructors, and you may need him to block
Yeah.
in an instance if there's another car that's competitive. Go right ahead, Car.
I totally agree with what everyone is saying, but if Max will not allow it to happen, because he is the catalyst to me for everything, for not everything, but for the drivers and how they're respected or not respected.
Mhm.
And so hopefully he does mature. Hopefully he does grow up and recognize that he needs a partner. He needs a second that can help them get the constructors and not only think about himself.
Right.
If he's going to consistently only think about himself and they're only going to listen to his changes, then Hajar will be driving a sports car.
I believe this year taught Max a lesson, right? They didn't win a lot of points for the constructors because he didn't have a great teammate in the sense, quote unquote. And you know, he was also coming back from the back. He was on the hunt, as Ralph would say. He's a shark. And his post race interview kind of illustrated that. He said he had a lot of fun this year, which I don't think I've ever heard him ever say. Right. And he has definitely matured. He's not the same Max he was 3 years ago, or even the year when he won accidentally. Right. So yeah, I think Max is definitely going to learn a lot from this year, and I think Red Bull will benefit from it. Hadjar, I think, is okay. That's just my opinion.
Can I jump on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So when Max starts from the back of the field, it's like Moses in the Red Sea. Everybody gets out his way. So he's not really getting compete. Max has been, all right, let me roll back. Max has been throwing shade.
Check your pressure, bro. Check your pressure, bro.
He's been throwing shade on the whole thing since the whole thing started. All right. And yes, he's kind of changed somewhat, I guess, after having a baby.
Yes,
but it's still the same Max. He's still there. He just brought it down one level less, but it's still there. But if you look at, like, you know, when Lewis coming through the back, everybody's like, you ain't getting by me. When Max comes, oh yeah, Max, oh, go for it, bro. Okay, yeah. They try to make it not too obvious, but nobody's holding up on him because, hey, that's Max. If we go into the corner together, he's going to take me out. You know, that type of thing. He set the precedent of how he drives. And I think he's intimidated the rest of the field. So it's okay for him to come from the back.
Yeah.
And, you know, because nobody's really going to challenge him until, you know, he gets up to like number 4. But, you know, coming through the rest, and they're getting out his way. I don't want to fight with this dude.
But they get out his way because they don't have a car to compete. Like, you got to get out the way. The one thing that for me is if I'm racing for 7th, we always talk about if you race for 7th, don't bring home a 10th place car. Mm-hmm. So if they battle with him and it slows their progress down,
that's true.
over the lap, you can't get that half second back. Right. So a lot of times you'll let them by quickly, right, in the right place so that you don't slow your own time down.
Right.
But as soon as you battle, unfortunately, they're racing for maybe 6 and 7. Right. So let him go so I can keep on the whatever pace I'm on to do that. That's the problem with Formula One. You're not racing against everyone. You're only racing against the 2 or 3 or 1 team that you're actually, you know,
that's true,
able to compete with. That's true.
Right.
And we talk about that even on the lower levels. Like, if there's a guy faster than you, why are you fighting him? He's gonna pass you anyway. He's either gonna pass you or take you out.
Right.
So what can I ask a question then when you're finished, sir? I'll ask a question.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. So
from my armchair observation, doesn't seem to be the same for Lewis, right? Because he's supposedly in a car that's running in the top 5. And when he seems to be coming through the field, it seems slow as molasses to me.
Because Lewis, they know he ain't in a good car.
But there are other cars in top 5, though. That's where my disconnect is. So you're just saying that they know that Lewis can't drive the car then. Is that what you're saying?
So think about let's look at, forget Max.
Okay.
Let's look at Piastri and Norris. When Piastri and Norris is coming through the field, they do not fight it. Yeah. They fight it a little bit today. But most of the drivers, other than Yuki, is not going to fight it. He makes a move, they're just going to let him go, right? Because they know he's going to pass them, right? And they're fighting for not that 1, 2, or 3 spot. They're really fighting for 5th or 6th, right? With Lewis, and even with Charles, but with Lewis's car, they can fight for him and still keep him kind of behind them or in front and gain spots. Because Lewis does not have the car. Right. So if he's not a competitive driver, if Max, for whatever reason, next year has a car like Lewis, you're going to see a whole different way of how they'll race him because the respect is gone. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to let you just pull up and pass me when you garbage.
Right.
Or your car.
Or your car is, yes. Your car is.
Which is you. You're garbage.
I don't know.
Just leave it out.
I don't know if Troy has ever misspoke, but let's.
Yeah. That was the look. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's also because of next year is going to be much different because there's no DRS.
Right.
So they're going to battle much harder for the position because
think
now, okay, I don't have that extra second on the straightaway to keep up with
Yeah.
Max.
Right. Right.
So now it's like, okay, I'm really battling for position. When Max comes, they're not battling for position.
Right. Right.
But now they're going to be battling for position just because he can't just stay in the draft and then hit DRS on the straightaway and, oh, here, look at me gaining a second a lap.
Right. Right.
Now it's going to be, oh, I really have to defend this spot because Max is just going to drive around me.
Right.
Like I need to stay in the points for the team. Lewis is doing something where the car isn't good enough right now where he can just drive by him. If you look at a couple of years ago, no one's trying to battle him.
Yeah, that's true too.
Right.
But when him and Max were going at it, they were 25 seconds in front of the field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even in front of their teammates, it was like, oh, these guys are a whole different level. I don't need to challenge these guys. Let me just run my own race, try to get some points for the team, and do a good job.
And you also don't want to battle them and then take out one of the world championship contenders as well, because then that's gonna hurt as well. You know, like as the season went on anyway, like they would jump out of the way. You don't want to get involved.
Antonelli at Red Bull Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Antonelli at Zandvoort. You do the same thing, but it wasn't on purpose. But he's trying to get to where he wants to be on the point of those guys. He wants to be up front, and he's kind of edging toward it too hard, and he's making big mistakes where he's crashing the car.
Right.
And when you do something like that, Stroll in Brazil a couple years ago, he tried to Max Verstappen go off the track, trying to win the race.
Right.
Takes him out, and then they're fighting in the pits.
Right. True.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that not only Truly is a talent on the racetrack, but also a mental talent as far as strategizing as well. So we look forward to seeing him racing for sure.
What's crazy is that, you know, just how you see Truly being able to remember, you know, that most drivers when they're elite can also, you know, I can go back and say, look at whatever racetrack we went to that we were good or we're bad. You know, when we were good, we're in Utah. When we're bad, we're in Florida. And this corner, like, what did the car do? And a lot of good drivers can say, hey, you know what? Remember, you know, we needed more grip. We needed all these different things in this beginning of the race, the middle of the race, the end of the race. This is what the car did, and let's make these type of changes. And so that's that. Yes, he's got an incredible mind on that type of stuff. But I think a lot of drivers, you know, when you talk about Max and some of the other individuals, is that's what they're able to do.
Yeah. What they call that, that's one of the things they say, that total recall, and they also say spare capacity, that they're able to recall that stuff, but even while they're driving, they're able to do so many other things because a lot of that is, you know, whether you want to say it's in the subconscious and they have more bandwidth to look at and do other things like, oh, where is so-and-so? You hear sometimes over the radio, they're asking, you're like, how's he even know what's going on back there? He's up here trying to look at bandwidth. Yeah.
What'd you say? What'd you say, Troy?
TV screen, or they go by.
Yes, they'll look at, but the ability to do that as you're approaching a corner or wherever you're, you know, whatever you do, that's the skill.
Yeah, you should watch homework. It's scary.
I'm sorry?
I said you should watch him do homework. It's scary.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
He'll be playing a game, doing homework, and watching TV all at the same time.
Wow.
And getting top grades as well.
Top grades. Yeah.
Yes.
Bandwidth.
Yes.
Bandwidth.
Oh my God. Well, we're gonna wrap it here. This has been, I will say, one of my favorite episodes. I'll say that. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, if you want to stay up to date, we'll be coming to you next season, over the off season as well, with some episodes and of course our shorts. Again, if you want to stay up to date with us, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you for the 2026 season. Good night, everyone.